Well, hi everybody. Super excited today to have the Howells with us. Carrie reached out and said, "Hey, we're kind of doing similar things," and we started chatting. And it was like, we got to share you guys' story. It's super exciting, and so we'll get to that in a minute. And I know, Amy, you, from a doctor's perspective, have always been like, it is so challenging to get our patients to eat really healthy food, and then the Howells come along, and you got all excited. So why is food so important to the body? Good food.
Well, it fuels us, right? And food is medicine. We always say you are what you eat, but really you are what your animals eat when it comes to protein and getting healthy meats in our body. And that has been a challenge, I think, for us to find something, especially locally. We wanted to find someone that, so it wasn't like in another state or country or something where we were actually getting our meat and not really knowing the quality of the meat and what was being put into the meat. And so we were thrilled when we got to try yours, and it was phenomenal. So we wanted to share your story.
Well, let's talk about that, because the best steak ever. Oh my gosh. Really, it's so
challenging to eat a good steak.
I ate all of it. There was
and
no
honestly,
leftovers.
there is such a, if you look,
There's flavor
the
in the
buzz
meat,
is
yeah.
on protein, right? And especially women, perimenopause and menopause. And I have to admit, I struggle, like since I've been little, to really enjoy meat. And I'm really knowing how much it is fueling me, and I feel better. But yours was phenomenal. The ground meat, we made homemade meatballs with it. And the steaks.
Oh, Amy's Italian meatballs.
And I think it just shows, like when you have quality meat and food and like the nutrients and the good fats and the minerals and the antioxidants. So anyway, we can go into that later, but
I do want to dive into like the how, but what a legacy, because I'd love to kind of highlight your father kind of started this, and then you decided, okay, let's do it, and Carrie came along and supported as well.
Yeah.
So, I'd have to throw my mom in there too.
And your mom, of course, maybe more so a little bit, yeah. The women.
I think she was the backbone through some of those times. But no, farming goes back in our family for generations, like a lot of families. But my parents set off on their own and started their own farm for various reasons, and so we are now. It's them still involved, and my brother and I, and several a good team of guys helping us out, and plus some kids and nieces and nephews once in a while that help, and on a second generation farm, and that's what supports the three households. There's nobody has an off farm job. That's how we make our living. So we like to do it.
Yeah. And you guys are over in Middletown, because I know just up 67, you were saying, just south.
69,
Yeah.
It's about a 40-minute drive from right here.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're local.
Is it the original farm that you guys grew up on?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Go to work every day right where I grew up.
That's so neat.
So how many acres are you guys on?
Well, we farm quite a lot. We've been, a lot of what we do is in commercial agriculture and raising commodities and raw ingredients. We farm a little over 8,000 acres, and
That keeps you hopping.
trying to grow the cattle part of it to be, and the beef part to be a much more significant part of that.
Right. So, and when you look at the beef production side of it, and what goes into making that steak so good? I mean, what are you doing? Because I think what intrigued us is, the grass-fed, grass finish,
Well, I'll back up a little bit, and we'll get back to the steak.
Yeah.
When we start, like I mentioned, we raise commodities, we raise raw ingredients. We don't have that direct connection with the customer. And when we started the beef business, we set out intentionally to do that. We're kind of sick of being the little piece of the system, playing our little role dutifully as farmers, and so that's how we got into the beef. And they actually, our goal with it from the beginning was that they would play a role along with cover crops and a diverse rotation of improving the soils that we farm and lessening some of the need for synthetic inputs and things like that. So, so that's I went off on a tangent pretty quick, but
No, I mean, I think that starts
It's
because we
important.
talked earlier about the soil, and I mean, it's alive, right? I mean, if it's the best soil is a biological soil, and I'm assuming when you're looking at the, that's not easy to do these days. And I know there's got to be some challenges as you guys were looking at, hey, we're going to bring this beef and make it as good as possible. How you go about doing that is probably not that easy.
no, it's not easy. But back to the soil health. That's what got us into it. We were raising cover crops, experimenting with those before we ever put the first steer out on the field, and so. That's what started it all, and then we thought, hey, this is kind of fun, kind of neat. It's a new challenge, and got started. Back to the making good steaks. It's keeping good, lush forage in front of them all the time. Never letting them go backwards. Always gaining and always content and eating something that's healthy for them is the main thing. And then doing it for long enough that they're finished.
Right.
So,
The one thing that's really nice for me, because Amy's always like, Eric, you need to eat more plant-rich whole foods. And I said, honey, I've got a cow that ate grass its whole life, and then I eat the cow, but I don't know if she's buying into that at all.
I will say, data do show grass-fed and grass-finished cows like yours do have more antioxidants, vitamins like vitamin E, carotenoids, even minerals like calcium, magnesium. So I will give you a little of that.
Well,
You
and we
still
were
need your
talking
fiber.
last night because this body, the most complex living thing on the planet, our human body, takes the food that we eat and it tries to identify the DNA of it. And so when you have an animal like a cow that's eating just real stuff and doesn't have some of the exposure to the other, then our body recognizes it. And you were saying even the B vitamins, you're getting a richer, more balanced B vitamins, you were saying. And I think a lot of times.
And even the fats too. Like I know, and you maybe can explain this a little better, but grass-fed and grass-finished, because a lot of them will say grass-fed, but then they finish them off, right, with grains. And that really alters their gut bacteria, but also alters their omega content. So like when I talk about omegas, like omega-3s are those good beneficial omegas, and then omega-6s, which they're all going to have a little of that, but omega-6 is more inflammatory. So if a lot of the traditional grass-fed or even just grain-fed feedlot, cows, whatever, I know their omega-6 ratios are very high, so they have more inflammatory properties. Like yours is probably more like 2 to 3 to 1, which is great, but some of them have like 20 to 1 of the omega-6s. So that's that's something that, like, if you're going to do one thing, the most important thing you can do with your meat that you're putting in your body is look for that, in my opinion.
And make sure it's the Howell meat.
And make sure it's
I mean, I'm just saying.
farms.
I mean, a little bit of that, right? Maybe a lot of that.
It's sold under Farmers Provisions. They won't find it at the Howell Farm.
That's true. That's true.
Oh, okay.
Farmers Provisions is the name of the.
Okay,
We'll make sure we put
that
all the
on our
goodies
site,
in
Farmers
down below
Provisions. Okay.
with everything.
Okay.
What else would be nice for people to know that makes your beef more unique than like what you would buy at?
Well, I'd go back to Amy's point. I think that knowing where your food comes from is important. You can make whatever decision that you want as long as it's a conscious decision, and then if you know where it comes from, you don't have to worry about deciphering labels. Right. Grass-fed, all cows eat grass at some point in their life, so all cows are grass-fed, and grass-finished is the important part, and then knowing how it was done. Even we were talking before we started here, Amy, that there's legally grass-finished labeled beef that was finished in a feedlot on grass products, forage products hauled in. It just doesn't have any grain. So that's not quite the same as grazing fresh grass and
And this is
legumes
what,
out on the
what your
pasture.
cows are doing day in and day out.
We move them every day to a new, during the growing season, we move them every day to a new swath of grass and let the grass that they just came out of rest and regrow. And so yeah, they're getting around and they're spread out, laying around, enjoying life.
So I'm curious because now I'm a big smoker. So when I made your steak, I usually put it on the smoker for about 20 minutes and it gets it warm. And then I come in and sear it. Now when you make your perfect steak, what are you doing?
Almost the same thing, reverse sear. I don't have a smoker that I get fired up and going, but I'll get it up to, I don't know, 80, 90, 100 degrees internal and then sear it.
My gosh.
Just, and then the seasoning's simple, kosher salt and some pepper. So.
And I love Lent, but I can't have a steak tonight now
That's
because
right, it's Friday.
because it's Friday. Gosh dang it.
We'll save those of you Bradis.
So I mean, if people are wanting your, Farmers Provisions, so is it farmersprovisions.com?
Yeah.
And give them a little idea. Like there are all kinds of ways, packages, and different ways in which you can get your food because it was sent right to our house. It was so
It's
easy.
pretty convenient. So, no, we've been blessed with a lot of demand. We're going to finish more steers this year in hopes to be able to supply that. Our inventory right now is fairly low, but we do
Good
have,
for you.
Yeah, we do have. That's the marketing department. So we do have a lot of different bundles. We sell a la carte items, however you want to do it. We don't want to be a luxury item. We want to be a staple in people's home. Just quality, clean, trustworthy food that you can have stocked in your freezer for a family meal. It's not the giant steakhouse steak. Our cuts are intended for where we have to eat tonight as a family, and most of our bundles are built that way. Most of our volume goes through people that are buying freezer beef, halves, quarters, eighths, wholes, and we've got that on those are usually pre-sold. We're taking deposits now for July delivery of those, and then we've got some bundles that are just a good sampling of all of our products and things like that. So, but that's, we don't want to try to be a once a month sort of product. We want them to have freezers full of
That's a great
protein
way to
that
do
they
it.
like.
Yeah.
So in the strategy, because I always get a little confused. So let's say I'm going to have a steak tomorrow night, and do I need 2 nights out of the freezer? Do I put it in the fridge for so much time, or what is the ideal formula for that perfect steak again?
I'm not the chef. I'm not the expert, but just so it's the room temperature before you start grilling.
So however you get there.
Yeah.
I think it was a day.
Yeah.
Maybe a day in the fridge.
But Carrie knows that we're so ragged that we don't get to plan that far ahead often.
Right.
So they're pretty darn good even when you just get them out of the freezer.
Throw them.
Is that what you do? Yeah,
get
you
'em
just
going.
or the
Right
ground
there.
beef. We
So
have
you
a
can
lot of that.
you can do that.
Yeah. The more time you have, the better. And the more time you can have some seasoning on.
Well, I never thought of that. So I could pull it straight out because a lot of times I got cast iron skillet, and if it's not nice out, instead of the smoker, I'll just put it in the oven.
Yeah.
I'll turn it to like 220. So you could wait until it thawed that way.
I've never thawed it in the oven. I've always thawed it in the microwave.
So you can, yeah.
Or sitting on.
Because that does it from the inside out, maybe
Yeah.
a little quicker.
Yeah, but.
Okay.
It
Either way.
Yeah.
One other topic I just was curious about. So, especially with the cows, the regenerative farming. maybe explaining like what is that? What does that mean? Why is it important? Or why are you trying to do that? Like, I know it's a very challenging thing to take on.
Well, I think somebody mentioned earlier that it can be somewhat of a buzzword. But I also think you said earlier that it's right up your alley. Only it's with soil and the environment rather than the human.
Yeah, it's more. What did I say? The definition is a holistic, system-based approach aimed at improving soil health, which is what we're trying to do
And
here.
ours
with
was just
human
health.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a lot over it. Yeah.
And it's got a lot of meanings, but I think probably the quickest way to describe it is to maybe take a few generations back and go back to what our great-grandfathers knew or great-great-grandfathers knew and how they approached it. That we kind of lost sight of so much of that with our synthetic inputs and all the things that we could control with these products that we put out there. Well, there's a place for that and there's a use for that, but there's also some things that I think we're a little bit too quick to dismiss and get away from. And it's rotations and soil cover and integrating livestock into the land so that they're breaking it down and spreading their manure around, and just all those biological things rather than chemical things that we can do to improve the soil health and productivity, and thereby minimize the need for off-the-shelf products. Right. So it's kind of the.
Yeah, I think that because even like I know they talk about like the tillage or like low tillage and things like that. I mean, it sounds like that's something you incorporate. Isn't that part of the regenerative too? Because and I'm not an expert on that, but I know that has to do with like the oxygen feeding the microbes and then the off-gassing, right? All the CO2 emissions that happen with traditional farming. So I know environmentally too, it can have a positive impact.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's and it's fun to watch. You can see there's I'm kind of taking a different direction, but we put in a permanent pasture right in front of our house, and that had prior to that was a rotation of corn and soybeans and vegetable crops on that land, and as we got the grasses established, it had a really problem area with a specific weed. All the time that we have been in a regular corn bean rotation, the grasses controlled that a lot better than what we did with products before that. That's just an example of how nature kind of takes care of itself, and I don't criticize modern farming practices. We have a lot of people in the world to feed. People just need to understand what goes along with it, and I think the more that we can move towards natural regenerative processes, the better.
One of the statistics I read, according to the USDA, these no or low-till systems in the U.S. alone since the 1970s have helped avoid over 240 million metric tons of CO2 emissions, the equivalent of taking 50 million cars off the road for a year. I mean, that's crazy. So, I mean, every little bit helps, like what you're doing. And I know it seems like your passion is wanting to grow this and raise awareness and hopefully be able to provide more and more of this in this local area or to those. I mean, you ship out of state? I don't know. Yeah, everywhere? Yeah, that's awesome. Another very important thing to me is the lack of use of these antibiotics. And I don't think people realize, so 70 to 80% of all the antibiotics that are sold here in the U.S. are actually used in the animal agriculture. So they're not used for our health reasons. And so a lot of it has to do with, I think, the crowding in feedlots. And so like if one animal gets sick, right, you're in trouble because you're whole. So I think they just put the antibiotics in like the food and the water. I get it. But what that is doing, it's creating superbugs. So if just like in us, bacterial resistance is a big thing. If we keep taking antibiotics, those bacteria get smart, they form resistance. So, you know, if these animals are constantly being fed antibiotics, if they do have something like salmonella or campylobacter, and then that gets passed on to us through contamination of the soil or the meat or the equipment that's being used, and then we see some of these big epidemics that are happening, like people have, you know, like there's campylobacter outbreaks. I mean, some of these are deadly because these are superbugs that are so smart and resistant to our general antibiotics, so they're super hard. So it's a big health concern. So I love and I appreciate that that's also a practice that you guys support.
Well, they, you know, they, knock on wood, they just haven't been getting sick. They're out, you know, they're out in grass and spread out and moving around, and they haven't been.
They're healthy.
Yeah.
They're treated well, and they're healthy, and they're eating healthy
Yeah.
food, and yeah, it's wonderful.
Happy cows.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite go-to if you're like, you know, you got a family of 4, you have 4 children, right? 4 girls, and I guess you probably just keep your ground meat on hand to be able to grab, or
For sure.
steaks, or-
Yes. Steaks are, we all love them, but I feel like maybe that's a once every 2 or 3 week. We might enjoy a steak. The girls love a pot roast. So
Oh,
take a
yeah,
chuck
that-
roast and put it in the oven for 6 hours,
Mm,
and they love that. So
we'll have to
yeah,
try
Yeah, we'll
it.
have to get that
Get one
recipe.
and try it
Carrie.
next.
You
Yeah.
can do that frozen too.
Okay.
yeah, that's what I.
Yeah,
Wow.
the way it goes.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Potatoes, carrots, and
Yeah, we'll have to
some-
grab some of those recipes. We'll put those in there as
Well,
well.
are you on our newsletter?
I don't know. We
Maybe.
need to be.
Okay.
So
We'll get it
how,
on-
one
get on
going
there.
out
how do
today.
people sign up or do that? They get on.
You can find it at the website. There's
Okay.
we just need an email.
Okay.
Of course, we want to use that to market to you. But one of the things is Carrie sends a recipe every week.
Oh, nice.
Oh my
well,
gosh.
close to every
Nearly
week.
So we need to
Yeah.
get all the listeners on that one for sure,
Yeah.
at a minimum.
Mm-hmm.
And then also sign up at farmersprovisions.com.
Yep.
Okay.
And just, get your, the half or a whole?
Or a quarter or an eighth,
Oh.
or a family provisions
Yeah.
bundle. or-
Ancestral blend.
Yeah, we help people like our ancestral blend, which is about 15% organ meat blended with ground beef.
That's
Okay.
so great.
That's
I've got several
Healthy.
people that I want to meet them one of these days and see how healthy they are, because we've got one that he gets 30 pounds of ancestral blend every 4 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And so
That's
He's consuming a lot of it.
I will say that is so the liver and those organs, they're superfoods for supporting methylation, B vitamins, iron. So, and it is hard for people to, I think, just eat liver. I saw you do have liver too, right?
yeah,
That
we
you-
do.
But that's a great way to sneak it in, and people don't realize, but to get that health
I
benefit.
was going to say that the girls caught me when I made hamburger patties out of it, but put it in spaghetti
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
or
You
Chili.
never
some
know.
chili,
Yeah.
Never know.
like that.
Ah,
Okay.
wonderful.
Oh, nice trick.
That's great. Well, this is
We'll have to get some of that
exciting.
next time,
Yeah.
for sure. Anything else that you guys want to share that would be helpful, or?
No, I think it's just, whether it's us or anybody else, it's just the food industry has gotten a little bit out of necessity. I mean, I don't think all intentions were bad. It's just gotten a little bit carried away, focused on efficiency and scale, and so when you have the chance to know where your food comes from and know that you can trust it, whether it's beef or vegetables or other proteins, what have you. I think it's important, and it's not that hard. I mean, talking about health, I wasn't quite as in tune to dieting or anything like that until I started looking at this and working with grass-fed beef, and so my algorithm changes and everything, and I see the influencers, and the minute I learned that you can consider yourself healthy just eating good red meat.
Oh man, I'll sign up
That's
for that
right.
one right now and today, every day. Well, we super appreciate you guys coming
Yes,
in.
we do.
Reach out, get a hold of them, sign up for sure. you know, freezers are cheap
Yeah.
anymore. So, and so super, super grateful. Thank you, thank you, thank
We
you.
really appreciate you guys having us.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
great.
It was great to meet you.
Super
Everybody have a great
excited.
day. Take care.